Hi, my name is Adriana, and this is a reading vlog for the third book in the Sigma Force series, Black Order. So last night I actually read the 2.5 novella or short story called Kowalski's in Love. I'll do a little bit more of a dedicated review of that a little later, but for now I just wanted to say I'm going to be reading this book this weekend and into next week. And this weekend the plan is to do some camping. So we are on our way to go do that. And I'm very excited.
So I realized as I was editing this video that I never actually went back and reviewed Kowalski's in Love. So I'm gonna just insert that in here real quick right now, because it's as good a time as any to make this happen. Kowalski's in Love is a short story that was a part of a larger collection called Thriller, edited by James Patterson in 2006, I believe. So he collected a bunch of short stories from well-known thriller adventure novelists, including James Rollins, obviously, and Steve Barry, and I imagine James Patterson had one or two of his own stories in there. But this one focuses on the character Kowalski, and this is, I believe, his introduction to the larger James Rollins universe. This is definitely his first semi-related interaction with Sigma Force, but to this story, Kowalski gets marooned on this island that is about to be blown up. He meets this scientist who is trying to get an antidote to a super crazy virus that some billionaire created, so he helps her get this antidote. It basically feels like a chapter from the climax of one of James Rollins' novels. It's super fun, and it ends in like a really cute, unexpected way, so that's always fun too. So overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's a good little short story, especially if you're familiar with the Sigma Force series as a whole and you haven't checked this out. I think it's definitely worth it. I would maybe, if you're reading through Sigma Force for the first time, I would maybe save this until after Black Order, just because Kowalski isn't actually introduced in this book. From what I understand, he is introduced in Judas Strain, which is the 4th book. So this story might slide in a little bit better after this, even though it was published before this. So just kind of my 2 cents, throwing that out there as someone who has read this whole series and is now rereading it. That might be a good direction to go. That is all I have. Back to your regularly scheduled content. We made it. We're at the campsite. It's really, really pretty and really, really nice. There is a chipmunk that is going to drive the dog absolutely bonkers, but I am excited to kind of get everything set up and ready and then dig into the Black Order. All I know about it so far is I read a little note to the reader and historical context. So apparently this does have something to do with Operation Paperclip, the endeavor by the CIA to steal's the wrong word, to grab Nazi scientists from Germany after the war and bring them to the United States
for rocket research and whatnot. That should be interesting. I'm excited to see what else James Rollins has to throw at me. Apparently the science has something to do with quantum mechanics, which we all know is an obsession of mine, so I'm excited. Alright, so we're all set up and settled, and I got to about 50 pages into Black Order. It is already bonkers, as per usual. The first kind of prelude chapter is in Poland in 1945, where a research center has been destroyed and evacuated by the SS in order to keep that technology from falling into the hands of the Allies, and some crazy stuff happens. I'm not quite sure how it ties in yet, but we'll get there. In the modern day, we are introduced to a new character to the Sigma Force series, but not a new character in the greater James Rollins universe, Dr. Lisa Cummings. She is hiking up Everest to do a study on low pressure atmospheres and how it affects the body, and she gets called away from that kind of expedition to check out a Nepalese monastery that is having an outbreak of what seems to be a cannibalistic virus, and she gets there and things start exploding, and at the very end of the chapter she runs into Painter Crow, our director of the Sigma Force. So what is he doing out in Nepal? We don't know. I'm excited to find out. Let's go. Good morning. I managed to get to about page 100 of Black Order last night. We've gotten inciting incidents in Denmark and South Africa now, and we now know why Painter was in Nepal. So things aren't really starting to come together. We're still kind of like inciting incidents across the globe, but I think this will be kind of the extent of our A, B, and C plots. So I'm hoping that we're now going to be getting into more of the kind of action, mystery, science elements now that everything's kind of established. I will continue reading on this today, but the plan for today is we just ate breakfast, so that was like step number 1 of the plan, and there's a little trail that goes around the lake here that I think is about 2 miles, so we're gonna do that this morning, and then just do some driving around and exploring because we've never camped in this area before. So that's kind of the loose plan for today. I'll squeeze some reading in here and there. I'll insert some clips of our adventures over the next couple hours and check in again if I have anything else to say about Black Order.
It is a force of nature. Have you felt stuck or insane? To venture or to evade? Wake yourself before it's over. There is no better escape. It is a force of nature. To follow you were made for. This is a force of nature. You can't stop this feeling any longer.
Oh hey, I'm obviously back from camping, freshly showered, feeling good. Over the weekend I managed to make it a little over halfway through Black Order, so also feeling pretty good about that. Feel like we're just at the precipice of like the roller coaster and shit's about to start getting real fast. So there's been a lot of buildup as far as tension between our mysterious villains and all of our A, B, C plots and everything going on, and I am very excited and enjoying it immensely. All this buildup has got me just rip-roaring ready to get into some action thriller. But while I'm here, I do want to mention we have come across my first I guess, thing to exile this book from me recommending this is where you start. Once again, James Rollins uses sexual assault of a minor to give a woman depth of character and or strength as a character, which I don't like / agree with / she's such a dope character, you didn't need to do that. Why do you keep doing that? There's that. But obviously I will continue on because I am just obsessed with these books, but I can recognize that there's some issues. I have about 70 pages left of Black Order. I just wanted to come in and give kind of a quick update, criticism, whatever, before I finish the book. I have really been loving it. The quantum mechanics as a chemistry, physics nerd, really loving how that's tying in, especially with like the biology tie-in. Really cool, really loving that. I'm beginning to realize with these older James Rollins Sigma forces, like, have you ever heard the saying, before you leave the house, check the mirror and take one thing off? It's better to be understated than overstated, and I think that can be extended to characters, and especially villains. These villains that have been in this book, Sandstorm, and Map of Bones, there's a lot. There's a lot to them, and don't get me wrong, I love a big, you know, bombastic villain, but this one, it's like we keep adding these really evil facets to these villains. For example, specifically in this one, there is I don't want to spoil it, but there is a guy in here who is pretty much a known villain from the start, or at least a known not great guy from the start. He is pretty overtly racist to one of our characters. He's working with some real shady people who we come to find out are in fact Nazis, so he's like Nazi affiliated, racist, and then there's just like a line in there, like literally has nothing to do with anything else. Like there's just a line in there about his sexual proclivities towards underage girls. So like it just pedophile, make him a pedophile for no reason. And it's a bit like putting a hat on a hat. Like he's already racist, he's already working with Nazis. We don't need to make him a pedophile just to add more bad guy things. Like he was enough of a bad guy. And that's kind of how I feel with a lot of this, just adding like sexual abuse to either add strength to our good guys or to add badness to our bad guys. It almost feels like the author doesn't trust the reader to know who is a strong good guy and who is a bad guy. Like they just gotta keep adding more and more to these characters to make them feel more. And we don't need that. Like it's not necessary, especially if it's not going to tie into the story in a larger, more important way. That is such a traumatic trigger point for so many people to be adding into your books. To not do anything with it feels not great. So that is my main criticism. Honestly, I think this book has been the best so far. It gives me a lot of hope for continuing on with the series about James Rollins' portrayal of women in the larger sense. I think after I finish it, I will kind of delve a little bit more into how I felt about some of his decisions about what he did with certain characters. But I think for now, I really want to try to finish this. I have to leave for trivia in like 2 hours, so I'm pushing it a little bit with being able to finish this before I go leave for trivia. But I'd really like to finish it because I really want to know what happens. And I'm not going to be able to focus on trivia if I'm just sitting there thinking about this book. Alright, I just finished Black Order and I freaking loved it. Like, this is a 5-star for me, even with all my criticisms, even with the way I don't like the way he handles his women characters' arcs. The pregnancy, happily ever after thing, not my thing as someone who is child-free by choice. But you know, if I want to read strong female characters, I'll just read a book written by a woman. I don't read these books for his portrayal of women. I read these books because the combination of history and science and philosophy and soul is just so good. I freaking love these books so much. And I know for a fact they just get better from here, so I am excited about that. But it's just, they're so good. The philosophy on evolution and how it ties into quantum mechanics potentially is just so good. It makes me think so many things, and I'm rambling, but that's because I love these books so much, and this one was so good. Honestly, this is making me want to like lower my rating for the last one. The further James Rowland strays away from that Da Vinci Code, Robert Langdon, following symbols sort of stuff, and just really digs into science and emotion and philosophy, just the better it gets. And I think we're starting to really get into the part of Sigma Force where he's really striking out on his own and kind of finding his own writing style. And I am very excited about that, and I cannot wait to read the fourth one. I'm so happy. It's so good. And I'm glad I finished it before trivia. So now I can just go to trivia happy at knowing I finished this book and it was as good as I could have possibly hoped it could be. Well, not as good as it could have been. Like I said, I have criticisms. I've voiced my criticisms, but still, it's so good. So problematic in some ways, but still so good. That is all I have for this vlog, for this book. I will be continuing on with the series, and there will be more videos on Sigma Force. So thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.